Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the LiftAffect podcast. I am your host, Matt McNeil, founder, clinical director, and director of human performance at LiftAffect, where we assist professional pilots with maintaining better mental health and optimizing their mental skills. The goal of this podcast is simple: to help pilots and other high liability professionals and disciplines come out of the shadows to discover how we can live better lives personally and professionally. Join us each episode as we discuss various topics ranging from mental health, mental skills and performance, to business, entrepreneurship, and a few other surprises along the way.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another LiftAffect podcast. I'm your host, Karl Keller, along with a really good friend of mine, Matt, my friend. I would say my little friend, but he's not so little. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. You're my friend too, Karl.
Yeah, he's a special
Joining
friend.
me today is Karl Keller.
Yes, my special friend.
My friend. He's my friend.
Coming to the end of another week. Woohoo!
Yep. Another one in the books, man.
Anything you want to kind of preload the day before, because I got something for you today.
No, I don't. I got nothing, man.
Oh, you've got your nothings are so full of something. It's crazy. Do you know what this podcast is?
I know it's episode 27.
So what does that mean? Do you know the significance of that?
It's after May 4th, which is May the 4th be with you. I don't know. I don't know.
We've been doing this.
They're all significant to me, man.
Oh, they all are. But
yeah,
we've been doing this for 6 months.
Oh my God. Is it 6 months?
It's been 6 months.
It's 6 months. I would have thought 4 months. Isn't that weird? Like,
yeah.
Wow. Half a year, man.
So I'm kind of going to drive this episode a little bit, at least to start with, and who knows where we'll go with it. But I guess our last podcast, we were talking about clutter and disorganized, and some of the techniques we use to help us in our lives. And one of the things we talked about, if I remember correctly, was, we look at things and we go, if we haven't touched it in 6 months or a year, we get rid of it, or we figure out what we're going to do. We kind of reshuffle the deck. So I'm going to ask you, this is kind of a 3-parter, because it's going to go along with several things. And that is, when we started this, from where we are today, compared to what we started, you're kind of a quick look back going, we had this vision of what we were going to do 6 months ago, and here we are 6 months later. Are we on that track? Have we morphed it into something that was a little bit different? Where, of the vision that we had in your mind, where, kind of like it's like a status check. Where are we at? Yeah. What do you see?
So I see that the original intention is the same. And let me just, I guess from my perspective, is to be totally honest and authentic in how I approach the wonderful questions that people are generously submitting and giving of their time and taking of their time to write in questions and think about things, and their time to listen to the podcast. And so this is my thoughts on things. Nothing more than that. It's not, this is the law. This is the law. It's not. That's not what this is about. I try to really keep things rooted in science. I try to make it apparent when I'm just giving my opinion, when it's not backed by data and by science. So that level of authenticity from my perspective has stayed the same. And part of the, I think we played around with just me not really knowing really what's going to be asked. I don't look at the questions. Any questions we de-identify and it just gets sent to Karl. I don't look at them. I don't read them. I don't know what's there. And I've liked that level of spontaneity of, it keeps me, it keeps me unguarded, right? I'm not like preparing things and trying to create some sort of answer. I'm just I'm just giving my take on it that's supported by the science that I'm aware of. So that has stayed the same. That original intention has stayed the same. What's changed is I didn't really anticipate anybody would really care about this at all. I thought, we'll just do it for fun. And maybe a couple people will listen to it, and maybe we'll do a few episodes, have some kicks, and what'll happen to it? Probably just, maybe it'll just get shelved, or we'll just kind of not have any momentum, and that would be just sort of an experiment. This was just like, let's sort of jam on this and just sort of see what happens. But because there's been a lot of listeners, which still just sort of baffles and staggers me, because we don't really promote this at all. I think I see this as a very viable tool for helping more people. And so the level of the perspective from my perspective is, I want to take this to the next level of value for people. And so we're playing around with some ideas how to do that. And I think we've got a few things in store for people that want to engage on a deeper level with the podcast. And I can talk about that if you want, but but that's kind of my perspective.
That's a part of a question I'm going to ask you in a second. I would tell you that I always felt the audience was there. You're right. We didn't promote it because that was a conscious decision to start with. We just wanted it to be, like you say, authentic. I've been humbled by the number of people that came and have listened. It just shows you how powerful the word of mouth and positive references, if you want to say, from others can really do something. I love the fact that we've touched people all over the world in ways that we don't even know, or some people have been kind enough to share that kind of go, wow. Mm-hmm. I will tell you the biggest thing that is different for me was I expected this to be, or we had talked about it, this being much more structured. With the exception of one 3-part podcast on sleep, we really, there's been, we always have this idea of what we want to do, and then the questions just lead us. The questions lead us to where the audience wants us to go. So in that regards, I feel like the podcast has morphed to some degree. I think there's still going to be structure. There's still going to be some things that we want to get out there that people haven't talked about. It's kind of like the old saying, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So there's things that I think that you've wanted to talk about, and you've always said that. And I think those are things that are going to be there. But this has truly become a listener-focused response in so much of what we do.
Yeah,
so that leads to the second part of the question, and that is, now this is where we are, 6 months. Where do you see us 6 months from now? At the year mark, 52 episodes.
Yeah, so we're kind of like talking business strategy. So
this,
strategy. Look, the podcast has not been a business at all.
No,
it's been,
God, no.
It's been a very costly venture.
I will tell everybody out there, this has truly been a labor of love for Matt. It's come at great expense, as far as, because time is the most valuable thing that we have. And I think the last podcast we talked about it. It's finite. There's only so much. And there are so many people that he helps and that want and need the help, that it takes a lot of time to put each podcast together. So this truly has been a labor of love. And I've just been humbled, like I'll keep using that word, to be a part of it. So with that being said, think we're on podcast number 53. It's now been a year. Where do you see it? Where do you see it's going, or what's happening in this?
So
next
here's what I think. Yeah, here's what's in store. This is like the knowns, and then there's the unknown knowns, and not
the unknowns.
The unknown. I'm not trying to get all Donald Rumsfeld here. Do you remember when he did that? Yep. It was like it was okay. Anyways,
I can go there.
I thought it was hysterical. It was hysterical. I thought it was really funny.
The unknown that's unknown because it's unknown.
Right. I love when politicians say just ridiculous things. It's so funny. I get what he was trying to get at, but didn't come out the right way. That whole era was just priceless.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, it was like Yogi Berra,
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, it was great. Yogi Berra is my absolute favorite, by the way. He's brilliant, and I mean, just the consistent yogiisms
Yep.
is baffling. I mean, the guy, that's how he communicated, which
Yeah.
is just
I will tell
I
you, I live
love it.
I live Vuja Day. That's the sense of knowing you've never been there before.
Yeah. I like that. It's good. Okay, so here's the things that we know. There's going to be a subscriber feed for the podcast. What is the subscription fee? I don't know. It's nominal. It's not expensive. That's not the point. The fee for the subscription is just to fund the next level of what we're going to offer, which takes this already takes a lot of resources to do. It's very costly, and we want to get it even better. And so the subscriber feed is going to include video, because Karl and I, when we do this, we video together, and there's sometimes screen sharing, and we'll, as we start to delve in a little bit more deeper into topics, I'm going to pull up data and studies and charts, and we're going to get into some stuff. And when we start interviewing guests, which is another piece we're going to get to, they're going to be sharing some of their work. And so the screen sharing is going to be a part of what we do. And also, I think some people like to just watch conversations, right? I mean, it's a little more conversational. So that will be up on YouTube. Is that going to be available to everybody? I'm not sure how that's going to work. It might just be available to everybody. It might be a subscriber only. We're going to start providing show notes with references and links to what's discussed. Certainly when there's guests on, that's going to be a crucial part. That will be available only to subscribers, because it's going to take a lot of work I have to hire somebody to do that. Which is expensive, and it's just a time consuming effort. But we're going to try to provide some pretty good quality reference material for each podcast. Interviews. We will provide some of the interview for everybody. Interviews are going to be in addition to the weekly podcast that we do. I don't think that they're going to be replacing the weekly podcast. I think they'll be an addition. And the full interviews are going to be available for subscribers. We will provide some of the interview for the regular listenership, a portion of that interview, but the full interview is going to be for subscribers. Advertisements. That's been a big kind of thing. I've avoided doing advertisements because I don't like advertising that much. But we're going to start doing some advertisements for companies that we support, that our clients will get some value out of. I'm not going to advertise crap or things that we don't believe in and things that we wouldn't use ourselves or aren't using ourselves. So we're going to start doing a little bit of advertisement because that will help fund the show and keep the show going and allow us to expand it. So that's the known pieces of
How about
of what
book
we're going to
reviews?
do. Book reviews, maybe that is something that we've talked about it. We've done one.
You have so many books and every podcast episode that you're constantly referring to these things, and there's so much value in them. Like you say, it's almost like the Cliff Notes. You've got this veritable, it's the Library of Congress of reviews that you have for the books. I think that's something that
useful.
People have talked about.
Yeah. I mean, I think we need to get a little more user feedback. I haven't had a whole lot of requests for that. So I think if people, look, I want to give our gang, our peeps, you, the listener, what you want. This isn't, it's not just entertainment. Matt and Karl is entertaining. I'm dancing, by the way, if you could see me on camera. It's not us just here entertaining. I mean, we like to entertain. I think it's fun. But it's most important is that we're giving you something that you can use and that's valuable. If you would like, I read a ton. I read 3 books a week. on average. At any one time, I'm reading 15 to 20 books. Because I read because I feel like that's my job. My job is to know things and to stay up on the latest of what is happening. And so I'm reading with a vengeance. I'm not reading for pleasure. I'm reading because that's what I get paid to do, is to know things and be able to present some of these things that are useful to help my clients. And I want to be able to share that with you. So, but if that's something that you would like, we can do that. Absolutely. Every book I read, I take notes on. It gets put into my Evernote, and so
we haven't heard
that's easy
before.
for me to do. Yeah, right, exactly. You're going to start hearing more of it. But that's an easy thing for me to do. It's just the time to. I don't want to take up people's time if that's not something that they think that would be valuable. We would only pick the books that I think are the most preeminent resources available. I wouldn't just review every book I've read. I mean, that's insane. But I would take the stuff that I think is the most important, offerings. But if that's something that people want, I'm more than happy to do that. If they feel like that would be valuable for them, I think you don't need to go read every book. I think sometimes, people make suggestions for books, and it's like, who the hell has time to read? Like maybe you just need to know what's the best
essence.
part of the book.
Yeah.
The essence of it. What's the punchline? But what I'm most excited about is the interviews that we're going to start doing. I'm going to bring in some pretty heavy hitters that are really changing our industry and making huge changes toward better health, better mental performance, better mental health for professional pilots, and then clearly that's going to expand out to professionals working in high liability, high stress environments, which is really what the podcast it was intended, let's just go for the pilots. Maybe we'll get a few people that are listening, but what's funny is we're just getting so many other professionals that are not pilots that are really relating to what we're talking about. And so, the interviews that we're going to bring in it's going to be something for everybody.
The thing that I would want to stress about all of that is our whole focus has always been about our listener and about quality, not quantity. Right. And Matt, I think Matt alluded to it on our last podcast, which is why he uses Evernote. He puts everything in one place. So what we want to do, since obviously the content that we're creating here obviously has to be housed by us, that's just another place for you to go. So we want to make sure that what you come to see is the stuff that's important to see, that you want to see. Because what we don't want to do is clutter it up with a whole bunch of stuff that people are going, I don't know where to find what I'm looking for. And it's just, it's stuff I could find on the internet. We want to provide you stuff that content that makes and improves your life. So it's the quality. And we want to make sure that we're just not another website that you have to log into of a myriad of them to go, what am I going to find here? We want you to know exactly what you're getting and that it's there to enhance you.
Yep.
Here's the third part, and it kind of goes back to our last podcast, which was about disorganization, clutter, and everything. And that is the present, being in the present. And, there is so much going on in the world right now. And we're not here talking about politics, but just all the events that are going on in just the United States alone with the debt, with the economy, with the banks, with interest rates from the banks and the pricing of food and everything, plus what's going on in the world. How do you cope with that and figure out how to kind of organize that so that it doesn't dominate your life, where you're, instead of checking your email every 5 seconds, you're checking the news because what's going on with the interest rate, what's going on with the world, and you're starting to go, what am I going to do with my life, or how's it going to affect me? Because the thing that I would say is that I think you made the comment, you don't read the news. You don't watch it. But and I'm going to relate this to the aviation community. If you're a pilot, you're going to see it whether you want to or not, because it's just there and you're going to hear it all the way around everyone around you. So how do you deal with it? How do you declutter that part of your life so that it doesn't dominate and the fear of the future? What are your thoughts?
So my thoughts are, there's a couple things that have really kind of shifted for me in my life that were pivotal. When I learned the science of how much we are wrong, that totally changed everything for me. There's some good references on that, some good books I've read just about, as human beings, we are not, and even when I was in graduate school, particularly for human factors, there was this guy that was doing his thesis work on bystander accounts of accidents and incidents. And he got a bunch of funding from NASA, and he did this incredible project on looking at what is useful with how we account things, how we recollect things. And he gets to the end, basically the end of the research, and the research was, you can't use bystander accounts because you can have 5 people that will watch the same thing and you will have 5 different interpretations of what happened. And that's immediately. And then if you wait a week, it just gets watered down, and then you wait a month and it's watered down, and you wait a year and it's just basically gone, right? So our brains are not capable of really processing or remembering accurately what happened. And I think it's the same about, quote unquote truth. Truth is a changing process. It's not fixed. And the news, I don't care whether you watch Fox News or you watch MSNBC or you watch CNBC or I don't know all the news outlets.
NPR, BBC.
NPR, BBC, right, yeah. They're just and look, you need, I have no problem with the news. It's not like, get rid of the news. No, that's a terrible idea. But they're just presenting a view. Is it truth? No, it's not. I mean, truth is somewhere in between, and the reality is that, there's constructions of reality, and they're all guilty of that. And this isn't about a right or left thing. And any extreme idea of anything, and maybe this is because I really am trained in science, and some people could say science is phony and science is fake. Okay. I mean, you can have that opinion if you want, but science as a process is the best that we got. And, and statistics are real things. They're not, yes, you got to understand how to interpret statistics. And there is just a lack of scientific literacy in our country that's just pervasive. People read a study and they go, oh my God, did you read the study? It says, eating apples is bad. And it's like, but if you understand how to read the science, you'll be able to understand what that science is showing and how to interpret that. But any extreme viewpoint of this is the way it is, I shy away from that, because that's just not how things work. And I think that people that sit around and watch the news all day, I'm not here to insult you, but you're kind of wasting your time, and you're addicted. You're addicted to the dopamine. You're addicted to the storytelling. And that is wrecking your life. It's it's making you sick.
I look at it like kind of like a divorce. You don't know the person, you don't know either one, and they're going through divorce, and you hear one side, and then you hear the other, and you would think they're talking about two totally different events based on that. The truth's somewhere in the middle. A good example of what's going on right now in the world is the drone strike in Moscow. You listen to Moscow saying, "Oh, the Ukrainians did it." You listen to the Ukrainians, "Oh, Moscow did it." And then it's all who you're listening to and how they spin it as to what's presented to you as the truth. And sometimes it's to soothe you, and sometimes it's to agitate you and to get you anxious and worried about something. So moderation is what I would throw at you.
Maybe this is a little black and white, but like, what power do you have? Let's take the Moscow. I heard about this on the radio. I couldn't get my Spotify to pair, I couldn't get Spotify to pair with my phone because I'm using a rental car because my car's in the shop. And usually on the way to school, when I take my daughter to school, we listen to her. She selects her playlist from Spotify, and it's like, it's our thing, right? We listen to, whatever it is, her Selena Gomez or whatever she's listening to. But I couldn't get it to work because I couldn't get it to pair. So I said, baby, all we got is the radio. So I hit the radio on, and of course there's no music. It's just talking heads. And I heard about the drone strike. And, but here's my question for you. What control do you have over that drone strike? I mean, unless you are in the military and you're in intelligence and you know something that we don't know about our own intelligence or, ally intelligence or whatever. But like for the average person, what control do you have over over what happened in Moscow? You don't. And worrying and getting stressed and autonomic arousal around something that you have no control over directly is buffoonery. I'm not saying don't be aware. I'm not saying just, you don't have to do what I do. What does that information in this moment, how is that, what can you do here about that? I have a fundamental belief that trying to control things that you cannot control is not a good use of your time. And if you actually spent that time focusing on the things in your life that you do have control over, what would that look like for you? I see guys and gals worrying and perseverating on things that they have no control over. And then the things that they do have control over, like how well do they sleep? What do they put in their mouth? How do they connect with other people? How do they connect with their children or their partners or their colleagues? How do they improve their skills at their job? They pay no attention to that. And then what happens? What do, right? They bitch about those things. And they get really depressed or really anxious about those things that they actually have some control over, but they spend no energy on. And instead, put your energy onto things that you have no control over. Please explain to me how that makes sense. And what makes this so insidious is that if you understand, and I do understand at a deep level how advertising works, I've lots of experience. I've worked in advertising. They are using your bandwidth to generate dollars. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's not I'm not, this is not some far off, hoax.
It's all about influence.
It's about influence to get you to do something.
Yep.
like a sheep. And so, I am not saying don't be aware and don't have.
I'll say this much, and that is that dwelling on it and thinking about it too much can actually have the instead of a oh, I need to know, or it's good to know, it can actually have a negative influence or a reaction on your mental health, because it can create anxiety, fear. This is all about.
Look at what happened during COVID.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like, it was the two extremes. I mean, they did a shitty PR job during COVID. That was crap. That absolute crap. And it pissed a lot of people off. People were spoken to like they were stupid. And, it's not left or right. The whole thing was colossal, but I saw people that had literal mental breakdowns because they thought COVID was fake, or they thought COVID was a death sentence that was coming to get you and you were screwed and you better not leave your house. And look, COVID killed a lot of people. If you don't believe that, if you think that was all fake, then the moon landings are fake and the tooth fairy is real. So I'm just looking at the science, but on both sides of that, people made themselves physically and psychologically sick. We had a 300% increase at LiftAffect. Pilots that were off the rails because they had to wear a mask, or because people weren't wearing a mask, or because, it was both sides of it. It was absolute chaos. Absolute chaos.
And I'll tell you, shot, because they wouldn't take the shot.
They wouldn't take the shot. I'm gonna get fired because I don't take the shot. I'm gonna take the shot. I'm not gonna take the shot. The shot's real. The shot's on the real. The shot's. It was like,
it wreaked havoc on people.
And look, what did that?
Really deteriorated.
The news.
Yep.
The news did that shit 50 years ago, or when shit happened with our parents or grandparents. They didn't act that way. And what was the difference? They didn't have social media, and they didn't, exactly, you don't have the phone. They didn't have Fox News and MSNBC and One America and, like people releasing their own videos on YouTube like they're a news anchor at a desk. And, just like all of this stupid, ridiculous crap. So that's why I don't watch the news. I ask people that I trust, that I care about. Some are Republicans, some are bleeding heart liberals. I have friends on both sides. I ask them, hey man, what's happening these days in the world? And I get little bits of here and little bits of there, but I ask my trusted people that understand how to sort of sift through the noise to get at what is happening. And I ask them what's going on. And I catch little tidbits here and there, but the reality is I'm focused on trying to actually help people, not just fill myself with junk food to make myself sick. And news is largely junk food. It's eating a bag of Doritos. It's eating a Hostess Twinkie. My opinion.
And the same for me. People will argue about certain things, but for me, having balance is very, very important. So many things in the news unbalance you. They shift you. They take you out of your rhythm, your routine. They start making you think things and doing things that you shouldn't. And the whole goal we're trying to say here is that you need to keep your own mental well-being good, so that you can help yourself and help those that you love. And that's all we were talking about here. And that's the only reason I brought up today about what's going on, because I think it is unbalancing a lot of people. It's stressing people out. People are getting anxious. Are they going to be able to pay their mortgage? Or, all these, you name it. Are we going to be able to put food on the table? You can only control so much. And you take care of the things that are in front of you, and don't put as much weight on things like that Matt says you can't control. Because they're going to happen whether you like it or not. That's life.
Well,
Things happen to us every
the
day.
whole, yeah. I mean, this is the whole point of like a lot of the training that we do in the mental skills training and at V1 is learning to get back into the present moment. Because in this present moment, if you get out of your future focusing and out of your past focusing, your past tensing, and you actually get into the moment, and you take an assessment of how am I in this moment, without all the thinking around, the sort of meaning making around and projecting of what's going to happen to you. If you get into the moment, you'll realize you're probably like doing all right. You're not perfect. There's real struggle, but like you're not being eaten alive by the tiger. And what I don't like about news on both sides is it's histrionic. It's like it's trying to convince you that the world is ending.
A future event that hasn't occurred.
A future event, and it's not.
It's their opinion of what they think is going to happen.
Right, and it's not to say we shouldn't be concerned about things. Right, that's not like the point of what we're saying here. Is don't worry about the environment, or don't worry about the economy, or don't worry about. But like keep it in perspective. And I see this total loss of perspective happening with folks that spend more time focusing on things that they cannot control and less time focusing on things that they can control. And that's the point. That's what we're getting at. So there's a lot of suffering out there. And, kind of back to why are we doing this? If people can take one thing out of each podcast, or hell, one thing out of 52 episodes, I consider that a huge accomplishment. One little bite-sized chunk that can better their life and make them a little bit more present and make them, a little bit less future-focused or past tense, a little more engaged with this beautiful life that they have. I consider that I've succeeded. We've succeeded. We did it.
Incrementally, you're just a little bit healthier, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It doesn't make a difference. It's all, I know I'll get this wrong, but if you can just do 1% a day or 1% a week, who knows where? Think about where you'll be in 52 weeks. You can't eat this all at once. The problems that are in front of you will not go away, or in extreme circumstances, they might, but most of the time they don't go away overnight or next week or next month. It's time. And you just incrementally, you keep putting one step forward, and then one day you're going to turn around and go, wow, I actually went somewhere. Yeah. And there's an old saying, figure out where you want to go, because if you don't know where you're going to go, any path will lead you there.
Well, I heard something once that Jeff Bezos said. I read it somewhere. I think in one of his notes to shareholders, or one of our friends really encourages people to read notes to shareholders. And it's true. That is where you sort of see an executive's genius or idiocy. And it's usually a bit of both. One of the things he said that just like kind of blew my mind, and this is sort of an algorithm. They said, what's the secret, to your success? Or how do you manage? You got all these things, and how have you managed to do this? And he said, it's really easy. I just try to make 3 good decisions a day, whether it's in my personal life or it's in my business life, just 3 good decisions. And like, that is when you work with people and you work on human behavior and you try to understand human behavior like I have, most people, well, I shouldn't say that. This is just an anecdotally Matt's opinion here, but like people don't make any good decisions a day.
or not nearly enough.
Like none. Or just like not, they just don't make good decisions. And if you just make 1 good decision, but put it, 3, over the course of the year, you just made 1,000 good decisions. Whether it was instead of grabbing the cupcake, I'll grab some carrots. Or instead of sitting on a chair, I'm going to stand. Or instead of just not getting out of bed and hitting snooze, I'm going to get out of bed and go for a walk or a run. Or just get on the bike and just bike for 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. If you just do that one time in the day, at the end of the year, you did 365 good decisions. That is an accomplishment. That is a huge accomplishment. But I think we tend to look at it's just too overwhelming. We want everything at once. I just want it all good. So, and then, that's a great way to destroy your motivation because it's too overwhelming. And so then when you don't have motivation, what happens? You do nothing. You make poor decisions.
This is a whole topic all by itself. So all I want you to do is just, in this case, humor me and just answer the question I'm asking and not go deeper because we're at about the end. But you said, what is the one trait that defines successful people? What is it that they do?
You tell me, brother. What is it? We talked about we talked about it.
Yeah, we did. And that's they have I can't even talk now.
Specificity.
That's my word.
Yeah. That is the number one trait for success. There was a article written in the Harvard Business Review that was the most successful blog post ever written for the Harvard Business Review by a social psychologist, researcher, that found what are the traits that the most successful people do. There's 9 traits. And the number one trait is the most successful people are specific. With needlepoint precision, they are specific with what they are aiming for, what they're trying to do. And this is what we talk about in V1, is create bright lines. This is borrowed from legalese, like legal contracts. You want them to be very bright lines. This is bang, 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 bang. It's not vague. That's what a good contract, all 4 corners of the contract should be very specific. If they're blurry lines, that's where people get into lawsuits. That's why you have lawyers to try to interpret. Okay, well, what does this mean?
What is the definition of is?
What is the definition of is? Right. I mean, this is what attorneys do. And so, but in our life, you want to create really, really bright lines. And most successful people, they do that consistently with a vengeance, is they are incredibly specific.
I would look at this like a shotgun, kind of a strange analogy, but you have 2 types of rounds, buckshot and slug. Buckshot, when it shoots out, it may hit the target you're looking at, but it may not do the ultimate result that you're looking for. It's just because it's got so many different pellets versus a slug. Right. If you're focused and you hit the target, all your energy, all your focus, or in this case, the slug is the bullet hits its target versus just peppering it and just kind of doing a little bit of if in this case damage. So I think so many people's lives revolve around buckshot. They just throw so much against the wall in that general direction, and some of it hits. But to have the full effect, you got to hit it with everything you've got and know exactly I don't want to throw 20 things and see which one hits. Focus and do it, and you'll be amazed at where you can be. You'll be when you turn around and look and go, wow, look at the things I've gotten done. Like you said, it starts with one good decision.
One good decision a day. And I would say that the smaller, the better. We have a tendency to want to go for the big, the grand slam. And it's like, how about just like bunt? Start with a bunt.
Celebrate a success.
That's huge.
That's huge.
That's huge. Because what do we normally focus on? Yeah. What do we focus on usually?
The failures. Yeah.
The failures. What did I do wrong? What's going wrong? That's the news. The news is never about good things. Notice that? It's never about good things. Hardly ever.
Because it doesn't sell.
Doesn't sell unless it's. Look, you guys are gonna hate me for. My Republican friends are gonna hate me for this, but the public radio has more stories just about community things that are good because it's publicly funded. It's not like this big money making thing. So you're gonna get more good stories of things that are happening in the world that are good. But you go to the big news outlets, it's all bad stuff, man. It's like gnarly, awful stuff.
The sad thing is bad sells.
And
good
bad,
doesn't.
and I would say, let me say this. Let's reframe it. Bad stuff hooks. That's
Yeah,
what it
that's
does.
true.
It hooks.
Yes.
And it's the same in our own life. We can focus on the negative and focus on the shortcomings. Because that's what we do. Pilots are the worst of that. They make a mistake in the sim or something. That's all they think about. But they don't think about the 500 things that they did correctly and that they did well, and they don't celebrate that. Even just that's like me. I do well on these things. They just integrate the bad stuff. And this is mental management 101. You don't want to integrate the bad stuff. You want to recognize it, figure out what needs some work, but you want to celebrate and integrate all the good stuff because that improves your self-image. So that's a huge point, huge piece.
We could, like I said, we could have a whole podcast just on that alone. So I want to kind of pull back from that. I want to give you one quick comment that I think that we've gotten a couple of times, because you've referenced it 3 or 4 times, or if not more, in podcasts, and that is your productivity planner.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many things out there. Just they want to know where do you get yours? What is it? Exactly, so people can go see it for themselves.
Productivity planner is a paper planner that's bound. There's different versions of it. It's made by a company called Intelligent Change. And I know of the people that created it and where they use the science of around it. But it's really about managing channel capacity. Channel capacity is how many things can we hold at one time. Really, like 3 at most.
I guess the question is, where did you get it?
You can get it anywhere. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it online. There's certain stores even sell them. I saw them in stores. But it's basically, I take my most important tasks each day. I plan for the following day so that when I wake up, I'm not trying to figure out what I need to do. I just wake up, I look at it, I know what I need to do. But it is what is my 2 most important, 1 must tasks. And I put those down. And you just do that. And then there's some room for a couple additional if you want, but I don't even bother with that. 3 things are put in there. And if I can just get the most important, it's a total success. If I can get all 3, even better. But it gives you a chance to physically write those down, write those down in there. It's got Pomodoros. Some people work in Pomodoros. It's, you work for 25 minutes, take 5 minutes off. That's based on how much attention capacity we have. We can talk about that at some point.
Yep.
And then it gives you can score yourself at the end of the day of how did you do. You give yourself a score. So part of being able to be successful is to be able to manage and evaluate how you're doing. And so the productivity planner is just a game changer. I've used it for years.
It helps you visualize things. It helps you see it. Yeah. You can't hide from it. If I say it, it's not written anywhere. This is right. This is an accountability tool, and you've talked about it. You live by it. I mean, you walk the talk.
I absolutely. I use it. And a lot of my clients use it. My really high performing clients, they use it religiously.
Well,
we covered a lot of stuff today, man.
Like I said, you didn't know.
It's all over the place.
You had no clue. So often this was me today because I looked back and I was going, oh my God, it's been 6 months, and I felt like, what? No. We need to talk about that. Going, where did we think it was going to go? Where are we? And okay, what adjustments, or where do we think it's going to go? And that's life. That's what you do in relationships. That's what you do in business. If you don't evaluate what you've done well and what we didn't talk about today was what are the things we didn't do well or well enough, because that's important too. You need to acknowledge your successes and also review and then discard your failures. Don't dwell on them, like you said. But I just want to end with this, and then as always, I want to leave you with the last word. I want to thank everybody. As Matt said, 6 months ago, I had no idea or thought that we would be doing this now, 27th episode. I had hopes that we would, but you just never know how people are going to react to it. Are they going to think it's got value, or is it just more clutter in their life. And so for that, I am so humbled, and I thank you so very much for allowing us to be part of your life and to help in whatever way we've been able to. And we hope to do that for so many others. And please hold us accountable. If you've heard what we've said, and if we drift off of it, we need to know and hear from you. And if there's certain things we're not talking about, you need to tell us. Because again, it was here for you. This is what it started for. And I just wanted to say thank you. Matt?
I same sentiments. I can't thank people enough for taking of their time. The time is your most valuable resource, and to give of your time to tune in and try to take some things here and contribute. That just means the world to me, and I have tremendous gratitude for that. I want to leave people with, start to think about, what do I have control over in this situation? And if I have no control of it, maybe it would be better use of my energy to focus on something that I do have control over. I think it's a small thing, but it's like life-changing. And it's a really difficult trap that we can, find ourselves falling into, of really focusing on things that we just can't control. So I encourage people to just maybe meditate on that, chew on that this week, and I'd be curious to see what the effect that has.
As always, please leave your comments, send them to us, podcast@LiftAffect.com. Smash the like button, leave a review, please tell your friends. That's how we've gotten to where we are today, and we just hope to keep growing it that much more. Thank you, as always. We are so appreciative. We hope you have a great day and a great week. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the LiftAffect podcast. If you want to dive deeper into this episode and every episode, go to our website, LiftAffect.com/podcast. If you're enjoying the show, we would love it if you'd follow us on Spotify and rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate your support. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, all with the ID Matthew McNeil. This show is brought to you by LiftAffect, a clinical mental health and consulting company that assists air carriers, corporate flight departments, pilot unions, and commercial pilots by providing comprehensive psychotherapy and mental skills coaching services to pilots with mental health and mental performance-related issues. Visit LiftAffect.com, that's LiftAffect.com, to book your free consultation. And finally, this podcast is for general informational purposes only. It does not constitute the practice of counseling, psychotherapy, medicine, or any other healthcare service, including the giving of medical advice. No therapeutic or provider-patient relationship is formed. The use of this information and any materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional psychological advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining advice for any psychological or medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the LiftAffect podcast.